What's up everybody, this is Marnick, Vandebroek from Stand Up Company, and when we're talking about storytelling, about transferring messages to other people, well basically when we're talking to people who are inside our business, inside our line of work, it's easier to transfer those messages because these people are in the same context. They understand what you're talking about. Now, if you have to explain this, which often happens, investors, outside parties, suppliers coming in that have no clue what you do, you still have to be able to explain it to get their buy-in or to have them take action on your ideas. Now, Albert Einstein said if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you probably don't understand it yourself, and you probably heard of the grandmother test, that if you explain your business to your grandmother and she understands it, well, you basically have a very easy, simple, tangible story and it's okay. I totally agree with that, but creating that grandmother-proof story isn't always easy, definitely because you're so into your business. Same with me, I'm so into my business, I can no longer, or it's harder for me to judge what other people who are not understand, don't understand, and bring it back down to the core. That is key in any message. Now, I have a recent great example of an entrepreneur that we regularly work with, and to keep this video as simple as possible, I'm just going to give his example of how powerful a story can be if you strip it down to the core and just use the simple, tangible elements. And what he did was, he came to me, and he's an engineer, technical background, and his business is in sensors. And I'm not going to give you the whole story, but he came to me and he said, Marnick, this is what I need to transfer to this audience of people who are totally not in my business, but I still need their buy-in. So how are we going to make this story as simple as possible? And I'm going to give you some of the things, the elements, it's not the story, but the elements he gave us. And he said, well, we're capturing data with sensors. We believe that our algorithms can pick up the anomalies and we can notify our customers. We're using strain gauges as our sensors of choice. Working with different kinds of materials, can decide the difference in lifetime of these assets. All this kind of stuff. Now, if you go deeper, people who are engineer, technical background, they'll be like, yeah, that's what we deal with every day. But his audience isn't, but he still needed their buy-in. So I asked him a basic question, and you can ask this question to yourself. I said, having heard everything, you understand your business. But now imagine that I am the dumbest person on the planet. How here today would you explain your business to me if I was the dumbest person on the planet? And we were doing this through Zoom because it's COVID times, and he went out of the Zoom call and he said, I'll be right back. And he came back, he went to his kitchen and he came back with an elastic band. Now, elastic band, we all use that in the kitchen for packaging, whatever. Everybody knows it. And he said, well, Marnick, if you asked me to have to explain my business to you, if you're the dumbest person on the planet, well, this elastic band, if I stretch it, something happens to the material inside the elastic band. It's getting stretched, it's getting pressured, and at a certain point it will break. Now, what we do is we measure what the material is doing inside the elastic band, so we can tell when the elastic band will break. Now, that might sound not that very important, like, okay, an elastic band, I get it, whatever, but imagine this elastic band around your feet, around your legs when you're bungee jumping. Imagine this elastic band being the cables on your ski lift. Imagine it being the material, the concrete in a bridge, the material used for the International Space Station that they're working on. Then you do want to know when a certain thing is about to break or its lifetime is exceeded. And that's what they do. Then they call it measuring the wonders of science. That's what they do. We measure what the materials do in other materials so we can feed back the data to our clients and tell them what strain is on the materials and when it needs replacement or how long it's still able to move forward. That's very simple. Of course, he added some more stuff, but that's basically the simple story that he came with. And I said, well, that's what you need to sell. That's what you need to tell them. That's exactly your story. Anybody, your grandmother, a 6-year-old kid will understand what you do. Now, if you explain this story to engineers, people with a technical background, it will be too easy because they're like, yes, we know, let's go a bit further. But for this audience, it was perfect, and it also resulted in getting the buy-in from all the 6 or 7 people that he had to pitch. So again, storytelling is about making a story very simple and using 3 elements. 1, making it very recognizable. An elastic band, everybody understands this. 2, it's very tangible. Bungee jumping, ski lift, bridges, where every person gets confronted with these things, so we can relate, we recognize it, and it's very tangible, and make it visually appealing. by showing it or telling it in such a way that I can imagine myself seeing me standing there on the bungee jump bridge, or seeing me sitting there on the ski lift worrying if I don't fall down. If you do that, any subject, any story will become easy, entertaining, and comprehensible for anybody.